Today I'm going to take you on a tour of Cemetery West in Castelnaudary. This is a relatively young cemetery, as Frank and I explored and found the earliest grave to be about the 1850s. And so you see you have all these above ground tombs where families are buried in. And it has vaults where they put underground and above ground the caskets of the family members. Here is called an immortelle. This is the vintage version of artificial flowers where people made these wreaths out of lace and different beads and put them in a glass or a globe. And as you can see here, the tombs have different decorations on them. They have crosses and different things that are interesting to the family members, as well as something very popular, which was portraits of the loved ones. It was a beautiful, sunny, windy day here in Castelnaudary. The sun was shining and there wasn't any spirits around. The only thing I saw was a spirit of a squirrel, but it was mostly a few people, 3 or 4 people walking around, changing flowers and visiting the graves. Frank is here to show perspective of the size of these tombs. Some of the things that we saw were busts of the people who lived, as well as another porcelain version of the immortelles. These families also leave behind flowers for their loved ones. There's a lot of flowers, and they leave trinkets and plaques telling them their feelings. And so these graves are actually quite tidy, and they leave live flowers and different kinds of things here for their loved ones. There are quite many above ground vaults. So this individual had recently passed away this year, and you see this beautiful arrangement of flowers honoring them. And it was an emotional time for Frank. He really enjoyed this time, but it was also a period to reflect on the ephemerality of life. Also, you see trends changing. These are recent grave sites covered with wildflowers, which is an initiative of the city, and more simpler tombs. But you can see the history and the evolution of tombs in France. These are more recently past individuals, and they are just simply buried underground with wooden crosses. And the families come and upkeep the tombs and the grave sites for them. And here are different versions of the grave sites. And even people come for the holidays and kind of bring some holiday cheer in memory of their loved one. It doesn't mean that because they're gone that they're forgotten. And here somebody put a type of greenhouse over a vault, but all the glass had been broken. And you see over time lichen and the, winds and the sun and everything starts to kind of erode the tombs. This here was an individual who was actually not buried. He disappeared during the Battle of the Somme, and they have a picture of him to remember him. As you can see in these vaults, there are whole entire families. We counted as many as 12 people in a vault. And you can see here, they go underground and then above ground, and they pay for the whole family to be buried. They have some very large vaults. This large vault only has 3 people in it, and the last person that was buried there was around World War I think it was 1914. So it seems like maybe after the war, the family had abandoned that tomb. Here again, we have a very old vault and another immortelle in which they had decorative flowers and beads on there, encased in a globe. This one is of a little girl who had died at 6.5, and it was very shocking for the family. And here we have quite a handsome young man who had passed away, and they put his picture there to honor him. And as you can see, the styles of these tombs vary, and they all seem to have some kind of decoration on top of it, whether it's a cross or a globe or an urn or something. But time has also created, lichen and moss. Some tombs are clean and pristine, while others are not. There is not a lot of grass here in the cemetery, as for maintenance purposes. The most you see is soot and dirt and the aging of the stones. Here's a sample of the size of these vaults. My husband is 5'9", and these vaults go quite high above the ground so as to bury the individuals above ground. And more of these immortelles here. They were popular from 1850 to 1950 until the advent of artificial flowers. This cemetery is close to Country Road here in Castelnaudary, so it is seen. And there are interesting faces. I could only assume this is a face of a child or a baby. Thank you for joining me on the cemetery tour and exploring the history and the culture and the French traditions of burying their loved ones as well as honoring their lives. Thanks again. I'm Leslie Juvin-Acker.